So a lot of people don't really know how Griffith revitalizing his body and actually coming into the new world of the Fantasia arc actually even works. But this all takes place in the Conviction arc, and there's a good explanation as to how it's even possible. Some have tried to make their own conclusions, but they end up actually overthinking or just trying to make some false conclusion that was never even there in the first place. And I'm here to make this video to try and disapprove this and give you an idea of how the story is actually conveyed. It's a lot simpler than a lot of you would actually think it is. What really inspired this video was a question someone asked me a while back. Are Griffith and Femto the same person? But we are specifically talking about the Griffith that is in the Fantasia arc. And yes, they are the same person. Now, let's take a look at the Conviction arc. As we already know, there are a lot of religious influences and messages conveyed throughout this arc, but a lot of these messages are simply being taken the wrong way. People are just coming to conclusions, again, like I mentioned before, and they don't really know what's happening when it's right in front of them, and it's just boggling my mind. For instance, let's take a look at this Idol of the Hawk. Let's compare this to the Berserk brand. Yeah, it's a cool idea. I really appreciate it. I like the way they were trying to go so in depth with it, but this looks nothing like the brand. You know, the arches on the sides are nowhere near close to the ones for the actual brand. And the thing on the top is just not there. And it's crooked on the bottom left. It just doesn't work. And a lot of people are probably looking at this and forming the misconception and thinking that the God Hand are the ones making all of this shit happen. But they're not making anything happen. They're just a part of causality. This is all causality. And I'm going to actually tell you what is really happening. Griffith is actually orchestrating everything in the Conviction arc. This Berserk brand that everyone thinks that plays a role with this idol of the Falcon, that's clearly just an idol of the Falcon. That's all it is. You see, it's right in front of you. It's Griffith's logo, Griffith's idol, and these guys are worshiping that. Griffith was able to take causality and orchestrate everything that happened in the Conviction arc. And this all starts with the killing of heretics. And the reasoning behind this is because they think a heretic killed and skinned a priest. The environs of this Albion monastery comprise now a den of sinners. The garden of this holy house where God's will is studied. It is deplorable. Thieves, rapists, murderers, and above all, heretics. Recently, another monk was murdered in the refugee slum. His mercilessly flayed skin and robes were hung upon the bough of a tree. Thanks to information supplied by zealous believers and the devoted work of the Holy Iron Chain Knights, we were able to capture many suspicious individuals. Upon inquisition, more and more of them are confessing to being heretics. This hellish spectacle is one aspect of the Holy See to which you belong. God does not reign benevolence alone upon this earth. He is also a strict arbiter. Mazgus is torturing all these people in the name of God. And what caused this torture to even come into fruition is the death of the monk and him being skinned and put on display for everyone to see. What Mazgus doesn't realize is that the God he is torturing for is the same God who caused the monk's skin to be put on display. Griffith had his vessel kill the monk and skin him. Also, he could manipulate everyone around him into becoming his sacrifices. This is actually pretty sad because Mazgus is nothing more than a pawn, and he is unknowingly worshipping the same God who murdered this monk and put his skin on display. Mazgus is unknowingly being a hypocrite. He's doing all this for a God he has never even seen, a God who once used to be human. For God, and God alone, do we act. No one is worshiping the God Hand at all in the Conviction arc. They are just worshiping Griffith.
The flocking sheep who've been led to the blood-splattered holy ground desire the Hawk of Light. And you and that girl will come to throw yourselves into their midst. It nearly parallels that other time. The eclipse.
You heard it from Skull Knight himself. Those flocking sheep are actually none other than the Holy Iron Chain Knights. They come all this way to the holy ground, and they're actually all unknowingly, like flocking sheep, just believing and putting all their faith into Griffith. They're putting all their faith into a god that they know nothing about. They don't know who it is, what it is, or where it came from. Do you mean you care not that tens of thousands of believers shall lose their lives in exchange for one evil witch? And again, coming back to the sad reality that Mazgas is really just Griffith's puppet at this point in time. He thinks Casca is the reason as to why everyone is going to be sacrificed in the conviction arc, but it's actually his god. Griffith is the one sacrificing these tens of thousands of believers. Mazgas is nothing more than a chess piece so that Griffith can be reincarnated into the physical world. How is Griffith able to reincarnate himself into the physical world? Well, this works because there are exceptions. When the concentration in an area reaches a critical point, one who should exist in the divine domain is incarnated just once in 1,000 years. This is quite simply causality. Everything was already set in stone before anyone could do anything about it. And Griffith was able to sacrifice everyone because they were all his followers. Can you not hear them? The voices of supplication. Every person congregated in this place now desires, as one heart, salvation. They are eagerly awaiting the time of God's victory. At that moment in time, everyone was putting all of their faith into God. And that God was Griffith. And with Griffith as their God, that would essentially mean that Griffith could do anything that he wanted to them. So he sacrificed them, and that's what allowed him to come back in the first place. Griffith manipulated Mazgas through blind faith, and then Mazgas helped Griffith acquire followers through this same blind faith. They were all fools, believing in something that they knew nothing about. So that allowed Griffith to obtain a mass sacrifice for the incarnation ceremony so he could be reincarnated. So how could Griffith be in the physical world once he becomes reincarnated? Wouldn't you need a body to be able to walk around other human beings? Yes, you do. So that's exactly why Griffith took Guts' son and then stole his body. Some would say that means that Griffith is actually Guts' son, but it doesn't work that way because that is Griffith in mind, body, and soul. It's because he stole a body, so therefore that's his body now. That's why Guts' son is able to walk around as a spirit everywhere, because he does not have a body that he is bound to, because Griffith stole his body. And all of this is possible because Griffith chose the perfect vessel. He chose a being that had no real purpose in life, no drive to live. And using that, he's able to find the perfect tool, the perfect puppet, in order to carry out all of his wishes. He gave his vessel a life, and in return, his vessel became a bridge for Griffith to travel from the divine domain into the physical world. And that explains why Griffith is able to come to the physical world. Now, how would he be able to live in the physical world? This is because Griffith's vessel grabbed the body of Guts' son. Griffith essentially killed two birds with one stone, because not only did he have a way of coming into the physical world, but he also had a way of living in the physical world, both at the same place at the same time. So it was perfect for him to be reincarnated at that place at that time, which just goes to show how much causality is rooted into the story of Berserk.